ridiculous. Folks, welcome to the Searchables Reptiles podcast. My name is Brian Cusco.
I'm Garrett Hartle.
We got Mr. Kevin McCurley of Nerd on tonight.
You might have heard of him before.
Yeah, you may have heard him before.
Is it just starting now?
Yeah, I told you we have to. Well, I figured we finished almost half the bottle, so we'll start now. Are you ready?
Holy shit.
Yo, you want to know what his parents look like? Are you fucking freaking kidding me? That's me, the bald dude. You stupid idiot customer. See this? No pictures, no weights, no lineage. Of course it's capture born. Damn, you're getting on my nerves. Yeah. Here's your Brody Reptiles. The customer's always wrong.
Here's Jabroni Reptiles. The customer's always wrong.
Searchable as reptiles.
When I saw her, like she'd been hiding, and it was like completely caught me off guard. And then for like a week, I was pondering it. I'm like, because her mindset, and I believe in like depression.
Yeah,
animals,
I mean, it's just,
and if they're like mindset or whatever can
gotta
affect.
want to pull through.
Yes.
Especially something
And
like a
me
wild-caught
prodding
king
and torturing her and all those different things. And then when I finally was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to grab her and pin her and all that. And she was like, I want you, of course wants me dead. And then I'm looking at her fang, and it really was like swollen, but it wasn't like infected looking. And then the eye, and then it included that. And I don't know why any of it happened.
Really?
But I had to put her on antibiotics, and we just got her to eat.
That's the best.
She was
That's
like,
the number one thing, right?
She wouldn't even eat, and I was like, but no, I think she's coming back around. I love that snake. As much as she hates my guts, I love her that much.
That's the reptile thing.
She is.
If you can only love things that love you back, you don't have a very loving heart.
That makes a lot of sense. Kids say the right things.
They do.
They haven't been corrupted with our different versions of the truth. They've got their real truth that has been untainted by society.
It is so amazing. The human animal thinks so highly of itself. It's really disgusting because we're literally disgusting.
That's what I was talking about earlier today.
We're the most disgusting creatures. You ever see the video of like trapped in an elevator for like 44 hours?
No.
Like a guy gets into the...
It's like society. It's the downfall of society.
He gets like trapped in an elevator with diarrhea, and he's like in the elevator, stuck there. And he starts shitting everywhere. He's like shitting in his shirt. He's doing all these things. Loses his mind, screaming, and it's on camera. And
this is like a real thing that happened, like a YouTube video or something.
Go trapped in an elevator for 44 hours or whatever. And then people are like, oh, it was fake. I was like, really? The guy's like trying to open the door. He's backing up to the door. He shits inside his shirt. Then he ends up putting it back on. He's doing like losing his... Oh, yeah, dude. It's because he starts going crazy. Because he has to keep shitting. And it's like, so literally if you took the human animal, like, so that, like, say, I'm really nasty. Like I don't like people. I'm so, what do we call this? I am,
Antisocial?
no, it's, no. There's a misanthrope. I'm a misanthrope. I hate my own fucking kind. And I do. I hate myself.
That's like hatred for everything almost. Kind of.
But because I don't set myself aside. But the human animal, all we are is mine, take, what is me, that's all. We don't exist for any purpose. Those little gargoyle geckos exist for a purpose, and there's balance. Native Americans, look at the balance and look at that magic that they had, and they had reverence, and they felt like even if they took
Those were human animals.
They took what?
They were human animals.
No, but they could balance. We don't live within balance. Every single thing we are is take more. I mean, think about all the people that are growing up nowadays with no understanding of animals or no value. They literally, like kids in the city, they never get exposed to anything, and they literally could care less. They don't even know a chicken nugget comes from a chicken. What?
That may have been a learned thing too. Just the Native Americans, how they learned how to have that balance. And beforehand, I mean, if you look at a kid, like they don't they learn the concept of sharing. Like if you look at a kid that hasn't learned how to share yet, like, everything's mine. Like that's mine. Like I don't.
But that's the human mission statement is to destroy everything, and look else. Once that runs out, look someplace else. It's like bluefin tuna are going to become extinct because our greed and our insatiable appetite is extraordinary. And it is so, like, they actually interview people in Japan. Would you stop eating the tuna if you knew it would save them? And the majority was like, no. They just don't fucking care because we are entitled. We're this. And it's really fucking disgusting. It's a cute little crested anomaly up there. But, and I hate it. I hate it. I can't stand it because empathy. Empathy is like less and less. We have empathy for humans, and it's like, but animals, they get so little fucking empathy at all. It's like, it's fucking wrong. It's very, very troubling. So
Well,
I guess
that was kind of that was.
I guess.
What?
Like if you're talking about when it comes to industry and market and making money, then everything else kind of gets.
See, I don't any of this shit. I don't care. I have my business, and I have all these cool things, but it's a necessary evil. But I'm not a business person because I'm an animal person. I like look at the animal. That's what drives me. Have a better cage. Have a better this. But I'm like, dude, if I have any money, fucking, I'm gonna go buy Lilith.
Yeah, but what? It's pretty stinking fun because so I haven't been here before at Nerd, and I did a little video. It was like what it's like to go to Nerd. Here's the outside of the building. Here's the pet store. Here we go upstairs. And as I'm going through, I'm like, this looks like my room in high school if I had more money. Yeah, that's what it looks like. But that was kind of the story with the whole, if you can't love something that loves you back, you don't have a very loving heart. That was my daughter talking about a scorpion. I think people have empathy for animals if the animal can give them something back. But if it can't, if it's a bluefin tuna,
once again,
it's something to be consumed.
It's all me. We're a narcissistic creation.
I agree with you.
We're so narcissistic, and we're malignant narcissists because
we
will kill everything around us.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've simply looked at a relationship, you got a man and a woman, and they bond, and then maybe the first year of life together, they're like, you're the best thing, and blah, 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 blah. But suddenly, you could go 3 years forward, and all you have to do is put an outside force where all of a sudden the guy starts getting wooed by a hotter chick or something else, or the woman is getting all sorts of attention from this outside male. So what was great then suddenly becomes like, it's like almost incidental. And we're attracted to something else. We're attracted to something else. We're attracted to something else. Even at the demise of that relationship, just to do that one little thing that could make you lose the whole relationship, a lot of us will chance that because we're so driven by our needs and wants.
Our hunger.
And then we, of course, have to lace everything with religion. And religion is just like, it's a way how we can create societies, and we have a binding fabric, or the binding thread of the fabric, and then we tell them about the thing that you can't put your thumb on, but you'll be punished by great things. You won't go to heaven. You'll be in eternal hell. All these different things, and you create this whole mystical thing. But if you go read the Bible, and all these ridiculous miracles, miracles were everywhere. Where are any modern day miracles?
I think that.
Don't say the birth of a child, please, God.
I think that they definitely exist. I could go through things that I would consider miracles.
Miracles? Like biblical type miracles.
Yeah, well, maybe not like grand, like national affected scale or whatever, but there's certainly things that you can't explain. We've actually talked a lot about this kind of stuff. Do you want to hear one?
Just because you can't explain it doesn't mean it's a miracle.
Okay, well here I'll give you one, and you can. This first one that comes to mind. Okay. I used to work with a guy. We lived up this mountain, windy mountain road up at the top. Okay. So this guy's driving up. He has his daughter in the back. She's buckled in a car seat in the back of the car. He gets in a car accident. He drove off the road. This is my old boss. He drove off the side of the road. His car did a whole bunch of somersaults down the side of the hill, right? He woke up like in the woods. Car was gone. Didn't know what was going on. He's all messed up. What the heck just happened? And as he kind of like sunk in, he's like looking around. He found the car. The daughter and the car seat weren't in the car. He's freaking out, and he's running up and down this hillside looking everywhere, like what the heck happened? Eventually, he makes his way up to the side of the road, and his daughter was sitting in her car seat, still buckled in like to her car seat, and the car seat was sitting on the side of the road. And he said, "Baby, what happened?" And she said, "Daddy, a man came in through the back window and took me out and put me here when the car started flying." That's pretty.
Okay, but you're still what we're doing.
But this is my old boss. Like that's a crazy story.
Okay, that's all just part of life because there all these weird things happen, unexplained things and stuff like that. But I'm talking.
You're talking about a grand
I'm
scale.
talking grand scale miracles like parting the ocean and floods and all. I mean, first of all, if you want like Noah's Ark, that's the biggest pile of literal. You have to be a doofus as far as it comes down to biology to actually ever consider that because that evolution doesn't exist and it was all just all these different things that are conserved and we just had a pair of this and a pair of that and all the different stuff. So we had a pair of Leprepeltis jetulus. We had a pair of Pyrolana woodeni. We had all these different things. And we create these things to self-promote our importance and all that different stuff. But at the same time, do you realize that not too long ago, the history of the planet was the majority of the biological volume of life, we were like 5%. Do you realize like now we're like the 90-something% with our domesticated animals? And we've completely reversed it. Do you realize that since the 1950s with commercial fishing that there is less than 5% of sea life that was in the ocean from the 50s is left in the entire fucking ocean?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That is outrageous. Because take, and then the fishing fleets are going, we can't make our living, we can't whatever, we need to do the fucking Trump signs the thing where the 100-mile drift nets continue to be used and all this different kind of shit. And it's like, okay, so live today. Put out your 100-mile drift nets that are killing all the swordfish. The swordfish that have to be 90 pounds to reproduce, but you're taking ones at 45. And if they're 45 or younger or smaller, they're dead in the gill net and they have to throw them back, even though they're dead. And
that way we don't
cod used to breed at 9 pounds. Now they breed at 2 pounds. And the whole entire thing has collapsed. And all this very, very short periods of time, we have lost so much. And we are literally living in an illusion right now. We're so fucking delusional because it's about ready to change. Like, we are going to get hit. The amount of extinction, they're talking in like North America, maybe we've lost up to 80% of our insects. Like the volume.
We're living through the next mass extinction.
Okay, so when I was a kid, like my dad, my parents were divorced. My dad would come to visit me, and he'd drive a half hour, and there'd always be dead bugs all over his car, like amazing. That's all gone. All the stuff that's gone. So right now we have a mass extinction of little brown bats and large brown bats and red bats, and that's all from Geomyces destructions. So it's a fungus. Right, it's an incurable fungus. So they had hibernaculums of bats that had hundreds of thousands of bats, or other ones that had thousands of bats. All these different hibernaculums that were documented that every single year are being visited. There's not a single bat left in them. It's a giant extinction, and all the insects that those bats are eating and all that. Like I used to be able to see so many bats, and now I'm like, oh my God, there's 2 bats outside. The amount of birds that used to exist are not here anymore, but because I'm not aware and I can't put my hand on it, because the insects aren't there, the birds aren't there. So we're just quietly, all these things are being removed. And Nobody's objecting to it. Right now,
Well, I think what you said is the trick. You're like, well, okay, I can kind of remember when I was a kid that it was different, and now there's a change.
So
if something happens over our lifetime, it seems fairly dramatic, but if it's a slow enough evolution, we don't notice.
No, but you have to be a noisy...
If it happens over 2 lifetimes, everyone forgets.
So the reason what they did with the birds and the insects, they started putting out all these insect traps, and they're like, there's not a big volume of them. So what they did is they went into chimneys, and they had these where the birds were nesting in the chimneys and they were crapping in the chimneys, and they looked at all of the exoskeletons of these insects, and they were looking at all of these insects, and now they look at the same thing now, and the insects are fucking gone. They're like, the diversity is completely gone, and the volume of it is gone, and all this different stuff. We're, the pesticides and all this different stuff. We're in a day and age where right under our very noses, like, look what's happening to a honeybee. Okay, so we've literally taken a honeybee. Bear comes out, puts out a non-tested arthropod agent, which gets blown all over a field because they were like, they know the right people, and the government passes it, and it gets sprayed on the field, and on the plant, it coats it and kills a lot of, the insects, arthropods and stuff like that. Well, the honeybee comes along in the morning, comes to drink the dew. All the dew collects, concentrates that insecticide, and the honeybee drinks it, and then the honeybee loses its code, how to go back to its hive and how to do all these different things. And then we have the tracheal mites and all these different things. So you're wearing the honeybee out. So there's places where they actually have to drive in tractor trailers, open the things, and you get the carpenter bees that all fly out. They'll pollinate a crop. You literally have to pay for a truck to drive to your field.
Yeah. All the orchards do it.
That kind of failure is occurring, that is the writing on the wall. When all the fish are leaving the ocean, and all the insects are dying, and the bats are dying, and now the snakes are dying, and now we have the PPE, from 3M and fire retardant and Teflon and all that. One drop of for some reason I'm blanking out right now. One drop of this chemical, which comes from
plastic manufacturer.
It could be 3M. I think it's 3M. One drop into a Olympic swimming pool. One drop is actually over the standard of what's tolerated. So what they've done, they cannot find any place in the world now that it's not present in the environment. It goes upstream, it does all this different stuff. And the only way they could find it when they had blood samples that were being stored from the Vietnam War, and they went through the blood and they found out they didn't have it. And there's like all these crazy little things, but we're so caught up in our day-to-day lives, we don't see this. And I'm so tied in with animals, and I'm just like watching everything fucking die. If I go into a pond and I start snorkeling around, I'm literally watching these ponds being sterilized. The things that were there, all the tadpoles, all the toads, dude, the toads are fucking going, the frogs are going. One cigarette butt can pollute 10 gallons of water and make it so an amphibian can't live in it. And all these different, and we're just like, bing, coming home from work.
It's not even that, like, all right, you'll appreciate this. I told you once that I was a vegan. You're like, what? No, you're not. And I think that's most people's reactions. I don't know. I had a
salad with cheese on it just an hour
He's
ago.
a cheating vegan.
It didn't have cheese on it.
Oh, you're right.
Well, it's no, because okay. So I did that, but I was a cheating vegan. But even like when you're having a little, there's like dairy in the salad dressing, whatever. So that's why I call it a cheating vegan. But I try to not eat things with
vegan
faces.
is not the right word, anyways. I'll eat animal products, but I decided a few years ago that I only wanted to eat animal products I sourced myself. So if I hunted a deer, it participated in the natural ecosystem. I removed it responsibly, ethically, by my own standards, processed and ate it, and that's a much more natural way to exist. It might seem a little bit extreme to a lot of like your standard society or wherever people ask me about it all the time, but the reason why I did it was because, I grew up in between California and Pittsburgh. And so I was always driving back and forth. And just one day I was like, what's crazy? From the Rockies to the Appalachians, everything is just corn and soy. Why is it that we live in this huge country and, as little as, 200 years ago, we had bison and, pronghorn and wolves and, and it's like, everyone's like, oh, there's plenty of room or whatever, but I don't think people understand the difference between, let's say, the island of Borneo being all palm versus one of the most versus what it used to be. Just you can guys Google the maps of the deforestation of Borneo over the last, I think it's like 10 years. It's not very long. It's all gone. It was one of the most biodiverse, and we've already done it in America, and now we're spreading.
You know what's interesting?
It's crazy.
You know what's interesting is the creek that I grew up going to. I used to go there and catch tadpoles and get toads and tree frogs and bullfrogs. But it was like it was booming when I was a kid. I went back, when I was a little older than a teenager, and then through my 20s, and it seemed like it was just a desert now. Like that creek had I couldn't find a tadpole to save my life, or a tree frog, or anything like that.
You can't even catch crayfish in the creeks anymore.
Or crayfish, any of that. So it was like literally like a little watery desert that was going through. But in the last few years, when I've gone back, the frogs are back. The toads are back. The tadpoles are back. All the bullfrog tadpoles are back. So much that even now that something that hasn't been seen there in 50 years, we just saw the last year river otters in our creek. That back there, and the town has not gotten smaller. It's more populated.
But something probably happened. There was probably an industry there that somehow got regulated or left or something like that. But I see this stuff all the time. But I will tell you, it's going really fast. I'm very much into conservation, and I work with timber rattlesnakes, and I monitor a wood turtle population.
Do you see any type of possible solution, or is it just are we past the point of no return?
We're past the point of no return because I cannot get enough people that give a shit. I cannot I'm arguing with a woman because the wood turtle came out of the stream into her yard and went into her flower bed, and it kicked around her brown mulch, which was a forest that they chopped it down and chopped it into little pieces. So she made this beautiful mulch bed, and it went into her mulch bed and dug it up. And she goes, can't you tell this turtle to go someplace? Get this, it's messing up my thing. The intolerance is outstanding. And I have a community of people that I've taken me probably 10 years to educate about the wood turtles, and now they're all looking out after the wood turtles. But dude, I'm a weirdo. I'm an exception to the thing, and the amount of energy I have to generate to actually have any kind of effect, there's only one of me, and there's not a lot of us like-minded.
I think it is it's a very corporate thing, like what you said. There's probably a company or something that moved out or whatever. But the idea of there were just subtle switches that have happened in the last, say, 100 years or whatever, little things that changed where consumption became great. Like if you just look at the size of, McDonald's combo or something like that, how much, so like the vegan thing that might not make sense to people because you just said there's tons of plants from here to there, and you know what I mean? People got to eat plants too, but all that stuff is being raised to be consumed as meat products. And meat and beef and milk and all that stuff. It's got milk and eat beef, and you know what I mean? The amounts are off. I think we're chasing that satisfaction. We've gotten comfortable. We like the fatted calf every time we have a cheeseburger, and there's a tip where it was I think we just used to be too poor or not industrialized enough to make it happen. But the second the technology caught up to give us everything we want, and we can afford to do it because of these cost-cutting methods.
We're weak as fuck.
It just collapsed. It collapsed.
It was
very quick.
We don't have, we just yummy things like high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
That can't be used as energy. It can only be one thing. You can only do one thing with it. You store it as fat. It's yummy. I ingest it. It's stored as fat. Our body doesn't know what to do with it because it doesn't exist.
It's hard to find something that doesn't have that stuff now.
Okay,
You know what I mean? But that's what I'm
the
saying.
ketchup and all this different stuff. But this is where we're going, and if it's where it is right now, like things are rapidly changing, like 10-year shifts. I'm really like, wow, this is really bad. So when you talk to me, you're like, God, this guy's fucking negative. What it is, the more I get educated, the more I'm like watching, because, I watch things and then I get incensed and then I feel like those are wrong. And then, but it's generally always like animal stuff. It's like I'm always trying to like.
Well, that's what it was for me. I can't say, it didn't sit well with me that I say I'm any kind of animal lover, but I'm okay with like the extinction of like the American prairie. You know what I mean? So just that I'm
a cheating vegan, and I've been a cheating vegan for probably like 3 years now. Yeah. And I don't need to eat things with faces or whatever. And it like, if I think about it, ethically bothers me. If I go into a grocery store, the literal suffering of a grocery store, and everybody's like, smiling, and little kids are running around, me, I want. But literally, you're friggin' in a place of the most atrocious death. Think about it. All those cans, all that stuff, and those animals were raised in horrific stuff. And then you watch how some of these animals are rendered. Now, mind you, I breed rodents, and I keep snakes.
I said, I
and let me tell you,
that
takes a toll on me. I breed, I clean mice, whatever. I love rats. I like mice, but I love rodents, and I want to make a pet rat, and I like literally it comes with a cost. So in my own little ignorant mind, I have to figure out how to justify this. But the most important thing is to have empathy and be humane, and just teach my people that too. Like, if I ever catch one of my people doing anything cruel, that's when I turn into Satan. Like, I will not tolerate cruelty at all. Yeah. It's like and they know it. They're like, oh, don't let Kevin see you doing it, whatever. And I'm real absolute about that, because just because it's a mouse and it's going to be fed to a snake, for you to get some kind of joy in that, you're fucked in the head. You really are, because that little animal can't do anything about its situation. But
I think it's funny to torture it first or whatever.
And the retic people, some of these people are just like, they don't think twice about. They make their stupid jokes about rabbits and all. I love rabbits. Dude, I have a ton of wild rabbits outside that I pretty much like take care of, and they're like bun bun bun, and they're like pretty friendly, and so like, I love them. And like I show, like, I do these. You ever seen my chipmunk whispering videos?
No, I haven't.
I do like chipmunk whispering, where I win over chipmunks, and let's see if I can find one on my phone. And I try to teach people how to do them, and let's see if I can find one.
Well, I'll tell you, some of the most positive things I think have happened is when it becomes financially viable to do the right thing. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, here, hand it. You got to show that to the camera. That's pretty crazy. That's a wild chipmunk that you're playing with?
Yeah.
It's laying in your hand getting cuddled. That's crazy.
I'll show you more. Hold on.
So you think about some of the, the positive changes, the things that have happened, like with sustainability and stuff like that. It only works if it's financially viable. You know what I mean? And once it makes sense, everybody loves it. Yeah.
So I can pick him up. He'll want to chase the other chipmunks while being in my hand. He'll run off there, and then I'm going to come back and I can pet him and all this different stuff. But getting the one to go onto its back, that was like my final.
The coup de grace, huh?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this idea here? What do you think about this? The reason that this has come to mind is because you're saying that we're past the point of no return. Like, it's kind of almost too late. Even if you got as many, like 20,000 more people than you could to turn around and have this mindset and do the changes that need to be made to stop this mass extinction and take us down the road. This is what got me thinking, is that idea that you're talking about, that we're past the point of no return. What do you think about this idea that all this has happened? We've been through this before, and we're just going to go through it again, wiping everything out, and then having a core group of people that make it past it, that survive.
Are you a Jehovah?
No, survive this extinction, and through a long process. Like, it's not just all of a sudden going to be bam. Like, eventually we have to adapt.
That's not good enough for me.
I'm just saying I know I'm not saying it's good enough. I just want to know what you think about the idea. I haven't got to the part where we evolve to communicate through our minds and develop technologies to where we actually leave the planet and basically become what we look at today as the idea of what an alien is. And that aliens are actually future us coming back, trying to warn us to stop what we're doing right now.
Whoa.
And before it's too late,
This
we become
podcast
these.
got started in the middle and went far really fast.
Become these, genitalialist forms that just communicate with their minds and have all this technology, but no more love for Earth and natural
Brian
things.
Costco has a wild tripping day on drugs. Peyote? Mescaline? What do you want? No, shut up with that gibberish.
I just wonder what you think about it. So just
No, the
not
problem.
possible?
No. I guess on Star Trek, sure, whatever. But no, I'm talking about the tigers that live today, the Great Barrier Reef. What about the extinction right now going on in the Great Barrier Reef?
Right, but you're saying but the point is, how do we stop it? But we can't. You're saying there's no way to stop it.
So think about it this way. It's real simple. I just built a great pool, right? And Dave Kaufman comes in, and I'm like, oh my God, guys, this pool is amazing. Dave Kaufman comes in, and Dave starts swimming, and he's been at Taco Bell, and all of a sudden he pollutes my swimming pool, and everybody's standing like, I'm not going in there. But if you look at that pollution,
The Dave, after having stumbled out of an elevator.
But look, if you look, so I have 100,000 gallons of water, 60,000 gallons of water, but that pollution might fit in this one little thing. Yeah. All the people be going, I ain't going in there. So you can have all of these people they don't care anything about the environment. They don't care anything about animals. And the little cups of stuff can't do anything to make that swimming pool where they're going to want to jump into it or anything. They're just...
It's perception. It's a matter of perception. We're taught what is
No,
dirty
it's not
and clean.
perception. No, it's not perception. Dude.
It is. If you get...
A perception? Are you serious?
I am
okay,
very
perception.
serious.
So this lake isn't polluted and all the life hasn't died or hasn't been extinguished from it.
I'm saying the matter of perception is what makes it okay or not okay in someone's mind. Not what's actually happening.
There's no importance. People can live their lives. It doesn't matter if the stream down the street is polluted. It doesn't matter if the forest is gone. It doesn't matter if there's development because it doesn't affect their life. Everything is done for them.
That's my point.
Every single thing.
You're saying a grocery store is like this shop of death, and everyone's thinking it's not death. I just buy my
exactly. We're neutralized. We don't appreciate. We don't care. That's where I go back to the Native Americans. Holy shit, they know everything is connected. If they take too many buffalo, the next time they come through on this migratory path or whatever, it might not be there. So they knew it's about give and take. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go eat some cookies, but I need to maybe go work out. Like Tara. Tara will be like, I did this, and now I gotta go to the gym for the next 2 days. But she has like this balance, and it works. We don't do that. And then you look at us when we're walking around, and we're literally caloric reserves. Our caloric reserves are getting bigger because we are storing more and more calories because it's easy. I don't need to be fit. I don't need to be anything, and I can always be fed. That's amazing. We covet, like if we look at animals, there is no other thing that covets the other species that covets the weak, except for us. And so if I was like a rat colony and I said, hey, we're gonna put some rats in here, but these things all have heart disease, and these ones get cancer, and these ones are psychotic, and these ones are all that. And we want them to really breed a lot in the colony. Versus, I have a colony where I put a bunch of healthy rats in there, and 20% of all, the rat production is like maybe kind of weak, and they let them all die. I would come back and say, okay, what do you think the chances are in 5 years if I come back to colony A and colony B? Which colony would I expect to be good and pretty much the same. Which colony I'd be like, holy shit, I don't really know. Because we know the ones where the weak things die off because of survival of the fittest, because that's how, this is biology. This is basic biology. Survival of the fittest. So if I am something born, I'm a fish, and I'm born without my gills being a certain way, or my fins, or I have no tail fin or whatever, and I can't catch food, I die because it's for the betterment of the salmon stock. But if I keep allowing these deformed fish, I say, oh, we got to covet this deformed fish. Now go breed over there. And now I'm going to add the defective no tail gene. Eventually, that salmon stock is going to be infiltrated by all the DNA of the no tail salmon. And then, you know what? I can't take care of this anymore. And then suddenly, the price it pays for that population is extraordinary versus that salmon stock where the weaker genetically, the mutant genes that just were not fit died off. And we don't do that. We don't do that. The average American is getting dumber. That's a fact. Because as soon as you give us technology, everything is now, we don't need to think, we don't need to reason, we don't need to do anything because it's technology. And now I'm a teenage girl. And the teenage girls, they're insecure and they're really trying to figure themselves out. And there's hormones, they're trying to figure out what kind of human they are and all that different stuff. It's a very troubling time. And obviously a teenage boy too, but it's a very, that time is can define who you are. You change it with this because, oh my God, now hold on. I got to put everything through a filter. So I'm a girl. And
I've watched that turn grown men into teenage girls.
Okay, no. But I was using something. But yeah,
Right,
equally
no.
men. But what we're doing is, so the girl needs to go and post something. Am I pretty or cute or whatever it is? So they post it, and then they look, how many likes and whatever. So now they're being judged, or they're being this, but they're putting themselves on all these different things. This is creating a very skewed thing because you know what? This isn't real. There's nothing real about this. This is all about perception. But we're now telling people this is more real than mommy and daddy downstairs who tell you, you need to do your homework. Yeah. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Or for that matter, your husband who loves you and thinks you're beautiful and you have a family and it's all wonderful, but your life you feel like is ruined because the computer's telling you something different
it's so sad, but people are getting everything. So I don't need a rainforest to exist anymore when I can go onto make-believe land. So the rainforest just became less important.
I want to get a gauge for how far gone you think it is. If all industry was eradicated today and we were back in teepees waiting for the buffalo to come by to feed up, would everything bounce back, or are we too far past that?
Well, okay, obviously you have some species that are just gone.
Right.
But if we look at the American prairie, we've altered it so much by allowing the grazing, and you have hooved stock that literally tear up the entire plant versus a browser, which is a bighorn sheep or something like that. That's a nibbler, and they're there because they lived in balance. So sure, a lot of things would start bouncing back. I mean, if we look at COVID and industrialized pollution, so if you look at California, the smog has gone away, and then there's the sky's blue, and then there's life on the beach or whatever. You can see life will bounce back if you don't pollute or you don't keep taking from the environment. If you take less from the environment than what it can produce, there's a good chance that can manage itself and survive. But when you take more, like we do with fish, take more fish stocks, then the fishery can support. It's designed to fail. So places like New Zealand, they had some severe overfishing, and New Zealand was progressive enough where they said, okay, we're going to create a 5-mile zone. You can't fish in it. Nothing. You cannot. There's nothing. And what you do is you create these islands, these refuges, and around these, and they allowed these 5-mile areas of no fishing. In those areas, all the fish are safe. And so the fish that are reproducing there keep putting out to the other areas. And they're creating this balance. We don't even we think about lobsters, Maine lobsters. So if I went back 10 years, the Maine lobster industry was it was such a model. It was an incredible model. Wow. I mean, they have the big thing. If it's too big, you can't take it because it's a big female lobster. And they were trying to get you to get the younger stock, but manage the breeder stock. And they really had this pretty good balance. And it was pretty amazing. So what's happened now? We now have, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I happen to know a lot of nonsense. So the acidification of the ocean. And what we've done is we're changing the alkalinity. And what the alkalinity would be like calcium content and manganese content and minerals. So if I'm a lobster and I start, as this basically this bit of plankton. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull things from my environment. So if I want to have a shell, I need to be able to calcify my shell. So I need to be able to have available calcium that's soluble in a solution, as well as when I'm eating things, I'm getting calcium and manganese and all these different things. So I can build a shell. So what's happened, there's less of that because we're adding fresh water to the system, and the calcium content and the alkalinity, which is the buffering. Alkalinity is essentially, think about it as like a resistance to acids.
Sure.
So if I have less alkalinity in a salt environment, so let's say the ocean is 8.2 pH and it's got a salinity of 22. So if I keep on adding fresh water, my salinity is going to go down. And when I add the fresh water, it generally has a very low alkalinity because I can't manage a lot of alkalinity easily in that fresh water, but I can manage more alkalinity in my salt environment. So there's less alkalinity, so there's less ability to oppose the pH changes, environmental changes due to things like acids. Acids are generated by, obviously, rain, any kind of organics going into the ocean, and also the metabolic systems of animals, all these acids. So what's happened is now the lobsters, their shells are so thin, they're getting these little holes. And these little holes, they're getting, I think they're getting a bacterial lesion. So what's happening now is you'll see they'll have lobster rolls. Instead of getting a Maine lobster, they're getting lobster rolls because they don't want people to see the lobster, because the lobster has all of these holes in it now. And now they're having to go further up into Nova Scotia, where there's maybe less acidification of this stuff. But all this stuff is happening very quietly, and people don't think about it. But if, to me, the Great Barrier Reef. So that's one of the most incredible ecosystems on the planet, and we can see it dying from space. And you know what coral bleaching is? Mm-hmm. So you understand how that works?
Yes.
Okay. Once it's done, you're gonna have a giant fucking wasteland, and that's the nursery of that ocean, of all that immediate ocean. Then what? These people, you go to Haiti. Haiti is basically an island where the human population has deforested Haiti, where there's nothing. There is no forest. There's nothing. So, and all the organics have run off into the ocean and now have basically suffocated all the coral reefs. They're eating fish the size of damselfish, these little teeny fish. And Jacques Cousteau showed it. And he goes to Haiti, this is years ago, and when he was alive and all that. And, cinematography, and they show the Haiti tropical, reef, and just splendor, right? He goes back 10 years later, and he's horrified. It's fucking gone. 10 years. So in Haiti, years ago, I don't know if it's still present now, the government would pay you $1 to plant a tree. But at some point, as that tree's growing, you can then harvest that tree for charcoal, and it's worth more than $1. So they can't even, that was their way to maybe start replanting the forest. But the bio demand on an environment due to us being the bio demand exceeds the ability for that environment to respond if given time or removing us. The only way it can respond, if they've done it in the American plains where they actually stop the grazing cattle, and they section it off. They fence it off, and it's amazing how stuff happens. But it's going to take a while for the plants, because you have to have the birds going there, and then they collect the seeds, they're eating the seeds, and they go and they disperse it, and all this different stuff. So over time, as humans have come into these environments, first thing is we start the biodiversity of all the different life that existed in that plain starts getting lost. So maybe the predators, the apex predators are the first ones to go. And then as we start going down, we then start losing some of like the herbivores and the browsers that maybe were food items for those predators. But eventually, you're losing the plants and all this different stuff. So if I take a rainforest, and let's say it's 100 square miles of rainforest, and I go around that 100 miles of rainforest, how far in do I have to go in that rainforest where from the edge inward, what is that distance before I get to the internal part of the rainforest where it actually acts like the center of the rainforest? There is going to be whatever that buffer zone is from that dry, arid area to that lush rainforest where the biodiversity is shit, where things are vanishing. And generally what happens is we keep shrinking that system. You just keep doing it, and eventually it has to fall on its face. And, like bats in a tropical rainforest, that's a huge spreader of seeds. And historically, bats would, feed in the forest and then fly over to areas maybe where the forest has been cut down, and they reseed things. But, it's pretty traumatizing.
A
if
lot
you
of
think
it,
about
I think,
these.
comes from like our focused destruction or focused use of certain resources, right? So if you're here in New Hampshire and you go to the grocery store and you're eating bananas or something like that, they're going to have a huge, like, where do the bananas grown? That kind of thing. Everyone in the world wants, or avocados is a great example. You know what I mean?
Water it takes
they
to make
grow
an
right
avocado.
here, and that's it, and the whole world consumes it. So you have to consume the entire ecosystem that is capable of growing avocados to produce enough for everybody to have avocados. And then through marketing and stuff like that, they get everybody hooked on these delicious, flat, fatty avocados that are delicious.
The two types of avocado, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with like palm nuts or whatever the thing is. But have you ever been to Singapore? Singapore is a really cool country. It's a city-state. It's a tiny island. You could probably run from one side to the next in a day. One of the coolest things is it's another English colony, so they're very like westernized in their thinking.
Interesting accent to have that like Chinese.
Well, they all
or
speak
Asian
like
influence,
5
but-
languages.
Right, but the British Asian influence accent is interesting. I know what size it is you're talking about because I had a overnight layover there one time and had enough time to like wander across.
Yeah, it's small, but it's a tropical rainforest, and yet they have these like giant skyscraper buildings and stuff like that. One of the coolest things, I got stuck there for 3 weeks one time. One of the coolest things was to see the infrastructure of how they built, where they're using, it's a tiny island, they're using the whole thing, and yet they allow just like corridors. Like, you would be walking down a sidewalk, and it's like a westernized, basically air-conditioned sidewalk outside that you're walking down. And then the sidewalk turns into a path, and it goes like around a pond or something like that, a
Evaporative
spring,
cooling and all
then
this.
it pops up, and then it goes around. But what they do is they're allowing like they're allowing wildlife corridors and things like that. Like, okay, these things have to move, this stuff. So they build around the stuff without trying to impact like kind of the core systems of the island, and they've been fairly successful in. You have this massive city living alongside like large jungle creatures, and everybody's somehow, you're not in teepees is what I'm saying, and yet you're coexisting.
That's beautiful. But generally, if you look at the human animal, Asians tend to have more mental capacity than they're smarter. Sorry, they are. If you look at all the the breakdowns and stuff like that, they're the average Asian mind, I think, is more intelligent than a European
What do you think that is? What is that like? Just genetics or culture?
I mean, I think it's probably genetics and all that kind of. I mean, just like if you look at I mean, this is all just. I look at humans as just being animals. So let's say I think if let's say you said, well, Kevin, if you took all the different races, what is the most physical? Like, what's the best? I'd probably, in my little mind, I would certainly it's not Europeans. I would say like a black person from Africa is pretty like it is like the ultimate physical spec to me is like, or some of these islands, I'm sure there's all the different places. But let's say if I just said a black person from Africa is probably the most physical. They're like their muscles and their ability to do all these things, and they're athletic and stuff like that. And then we did this with Aboriginal people too. If you take them and you give them shitty food and you feed them, their body is like so refined and like can, what it over, ancestry. It's what it grew. It evolved on whatever the diet was, and then if all you give it Western diet, like if you look at like black males, their chances of a heart attack by the age of 45 is pretty fucking extraordinary because their body is like it's like a race car versus a Hyundai.
So the issue is not like this race versus that race or any of that. It's the homogenation of the planet. So in other words, like if you're from the Philippines and you were raised on the diet of all the natural resources from that island, your body becomes fine too. I was amazed how healthy poor people in Indonesia are.
Okay. So all right. So
you know what I mean? African plain.
Do you know what the China? Do you know what the China study is?
The China study?
Okay. So they take. I'll just give you the anecdotal aspects of it. Is they take like 17 million deaths that they have like, okay, this person died from this and this was the reason. Okay. And it took them like 7 years to log all this. So they basically, in theory, took about 17 million people. What was the reason of death? Okay. And then they noticed over time, the people, so this was like in Asia, so China and stuff. And they noticed that the people used to live a pretty long time and they would die often due to something that's related to poverty. Okay. And then they noticed as time went on, they started dying from something else. And they started dying from heart disease and cancer.
Everything common to Americans.
Okay. But what it was common to industrialization. So you took
well, that's why I say
what you just said.
Industrialized very quickly.
Okay. So you take a poor farmer that generally doesn't have a daily source of chicken, but they have veggies and they work and they're meager, things, and they probably stay lean.
Or so when I lived in Indonesia, you're eating the equivalent of like 2 chicken nuggets in a meal with a bunch of rice and vegetables.
Okay, so perfect. So perfect. Balance. So what they learned when they had enough money, they started including animal-based protein into their diet. When that happened, they started dying from heart disease and cancer. Yeah. But before that, if they couldn't afford to eat meat, they lived longer and they were healthier. And that's very.
And I don't think it's like that meat or animal protein is inherently like poisonous to humans or anything like that. I think that our balance is insane. That the balance is way off.
No, I completely disagree with you.
Well,
there's
we
nothing.
Have a vegan argument. Then.
No, but there's nothing. You cannot tell me that.
I watched 2 vegans argue about whether meat's good or not.
No, you can't tell me. Let's say okay.
2 cheating vegans.
So no. So if I have steak versus a bunch of vegetable-based protein, you cannot. You don't have a scientific point to say no.
Steak is.
It's yummy. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No. Well, my point is like steak is awful. What it's become. On the other hand, if you were to eat, like, let's say you shot a squirrel.
Dude, no. I'm not listening. I'm not. I respect hunters because a hunter who goes out and harvests a deer. That deer, I get it all, and the forest is still there, so another deer can go there. I'm not poo-pooing any of that. But okay, what are you? Are you an omnivore? Are you a herbivore? Are you a carnivore? Or are you a frugivore?
Well, I like to say I'm vegan, but the truth is
what are you?
Omnivore.
Okay, so you're an omnivore. Says who?
My diet.
No, you're wrong.
I
No,
eat
no.
everything.
What I think what says what you are is actually your physical being, your body, right?
Your genetic code.
No,
what you're
no.
saying?
What if I look at your body? You have a weak stomach acid. You have a very long gut. You have the jaw
Okay.
back and forth of a fucking frugivore. You have 3.5 pounds of microbes in your gut. Their superfood is fruit. You're a fucking frugivore, dude. You're not an omnivore. You're not a carnivore. You're not a herbivore. You are designed.
You're saying I should just be eating fruit and nothing but fruit?
No, you eat, no, it's fruit and veggies because your gut, what do you think of a long gut? If I go and dissect a dog, do they have a long gut or a short gut?
Is it a short
It's
gut?
a short gut. Their stomach pH is so powerful, it can like digest bits of bone and tendon and stuff like that. If you eat, let's say if I give you a block of cheese, so basically cheese might as well be a piece of meat. It's got massive saturated fats, it's got salt, it's got casein protein, it's got all this different stuff. And you eat this big block of cheese. Within a few minutes, your body goes into a freak out. Because what's happening is your body needs to dump an incredible amount of acid into your stomach, and not a very efficient acid that's not designed to break down cheese or meat. It's designed to like digest the banana. So what happens is, you know what pancreatitis is? Mm-hmm. So your body does not want pancreatitis. So it immediately starts dumping.
Any itis for that
Right.
matter.
Yeah, true. So it starts dumping a whole bunch of acid into your stomach because it needs to break that material down because it can't have it rot or go bad and have pancreatitis or any of that because that'll make you really sick. So now you've just dumped a shit ton of acid in there to digest that block of cheese. And there's something called an acid index of food. So if I look at the acid index of food, let's say to digest an ounce of cheese, and I look at an acid index of food to digest an ounce of brown rice, ounce of banana, you're going to see that the acid index of cheese is really high, and the acid index to digest a banana or a yam or potato or whole grain bread is very, very low. So I go eat a hamburger with cheese, all sorts of fat, whatever. I've just eaten this meal that is traumatic for my body. You have a massive inflammatory reaction when that food goes in your stomach. And
The problem with cheese is it's super addictive because when your body breaks it down, it almost turns it into like a...
ketomorphines.
Yeah, it's almost like...
No, it's not almost like it is. It's ketomorphines. So you have receptors in your brain, so it's the same receptors that
Like heroin.
heroin. Very good. So that's the bond between a mother cow and her baby. And so when the mother cow wanders off, the baby just comes running because it's constantly nursing because it's that feel good, it's that comfort.
Yeah.
Or
I'm being taken care
whatever.
of.
So you've eaten.
like an opiate.
So what's happened is, so you're sitting here and we fucking love it. Like I'm gonna freaking eat like a double Wendy's heart attack burger and fries and blah, 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 all this in a shake. And I'm eating that and yummy. It's yummy because it has everything we want. It has salt and it has fat. So I've ingested that and now I have this massive index of acid needed. So all this acid, as soon as you start eating, your saliva, that's like the beginning of it all. Okay, so I'm salivating and I need to start digesting that really quick. So I'm dumping all this acid in there. How is that acid neutralized?
Well, hopefully you eat a shit ton of plants to counteract it.
No,
I guess.
so what it actually does, it actually takes the calcium out of your bones. So your bones are reserved. So our bones are just like a snake egg, all the little pores, so like dot, dot, dot. So our bones are, if you look at our bones and you pull out all the calcium.
It's porous. It's very
It's
porous.
porous to cell. So it's basically a calcium reserve. We use
Or
calcium.
even like if you go look at a bleached reef, it almost looks the same way. It's a similar structure.
Yeah, stony corals and all that stuff. But
Okay.
so this is like the place for calcium storage and manganese and all sorts of other minerals. And we use like calcium just for our nerves to communicate. So if we don't have enough calcium, like a bearded dragon, the random firing.
Bone disease and all that.
Okay, so what that is there's the calcium is no longer there. So your emitters and your receptors are firing because the calcium, which I guess kind of is part of the neuron transmission, is normally quieted or it's under control with the calcium. When you don't have it, they just start randomly firing.
Now, what about nuts and seeds?
Okay, well, one sec. So you have eaten all this food. Now you dump a shit ton of acid in your stomach, and then you eventually digest it. So if that person is eating this burger and stuff like that versus another person that ate a yam and potatoes and broccoli, this person starts going, I just want to take a nap, right? All that different kind of shit.
I need to recuperate.
That's an inflammatory reaction. Your fucking body is losing its shit, and you are speeding your way to try to digest so you don't have pancreatitis. So now, after you've digested everything, now your bones start giving all the base. So it provides what neutralizes all the acid. So that process of every meal having this high acid index, dumping a shit ton of acid in your stomach, and then neutralizing with your bones, that's called metabolic acidosis. Metabolic acidosis in the average American diet will cause our body pH, let's say the human animal has an optimal body pH of 7.3, which means its metabolism and its immune response is excellent at 7.3. If I start making it 6.8, my immune response might only be 80%. And I might not be able to metabolize things as well. And all this different shit. You start adjusting the person, they start getting a little fatter, they start getting a little unhealthier, all that stuff. So we're just slowly eroding the quality of that person's life because something is yummy and whatever. But if you look up acid index of food, it's amazing. So nuts and seeds, unless you have, diverticulitis or something like that. But nuts and seeds are like an incredible source of protein and calories. And that's why birds and all that different stuff eat it. But being a grazer, there is, back to the original thing, you can't argue meat is a better source of anything unless you're talking about like iron.
B12 and iron.
Yeah, that's it. But you can get B12. You get B12 from a lot of
So here's
vegetable
kind of
stuff,
my
Algae.
yeah, very good. And but we can get iron by just taking a supplement. But that's still not a good because do you know that you cannot write on a box of eggs that it's good for you? You can't write it's healthy for you. It's a good source of protein. You can't do any of that. Do you know that?
No, I didn't.
None of us know it because all we're doing is being lied to. We're being mismanaged. Our brains, because we're relying on.
It's part of a healthy, balanced breakfast.
But do you know who created all that?
I will tell
who
you.
Who all created that was the food pyramid. That's all the food industry working with the government. And they're all in bed together, and we're the cattle. Just a giant field of us.
They should let the reptile industry work with the government to come up with some posters and charts.
You're trying to say?
I can attest anecdotally to. I've done those different diets where I've eaten vegan for an extended period of time and raw diets, and the way I've felt has been pretty incredible. But it's so hard to stay away from it in the culture we live in.
Okay, so therefore, I'm a cheating vegan. So I grew up with you guys. It's just easier.
Yeah.
So, but I can eat really pretty decent 70, 80% of the time. And I can easily, go an extended period of time where I don't eat any animals or anything like that. It doesn't faze me because I've learned all these other ways to eat things.
Yeah.
Like
I've
Barb
done that
is
too. My wife is actually way up on that stuff. Like you guys would be preaching to each other right now. But.
Do you like? It's amazing. Like when I used to, when I was doing jits, like the next day, like, oh, fucking sore. Oh, fuck, my workout was killing me. As soon as I started becoming like a vegan, the soreness went away.
Recovery is just like that.
Muay Thai, same deal. You're just like, I'm not like, I'm not even like, I'm like not even.
Where is all this energy?
And then your addiction, after about a couple of weeks, your food addiction goes away, like the pizza things and the
Don't even
there
want
is.
it anymore.
But it's so amazing if you ever listen to somebody who's like anti-vegan. Where do you get your protein? It's like you have what IQ of like a leech. You literally don't know what you're talking. So
I know.
Do you
Proteins
know,
are built up of amino acids, and as long as you have.
But there's going to be people that will try to argue. So the strongest man, let's say in the United States or in the world or whatever, but the strongest man, right? What is he? Strongest man. Just listen, whatever. What is he? Is he a carnivore? Is he Conor McGregor, who's like, I'm going to eat steak, and then go and lose a fight to a vegan.
Are you talking about a specific guy right now?
Yeah.
It's like strongman, like lifting the most weight?
Yes,
or?
he's the strongest man. I think he's the strongest man in the world. He broke all the records.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember
He's
his
not
name.
even big.
Deer or his name.
He's short. He's got dark hair. He's got the beard. Dude, he's unfucking believable. He's a vegan. He's a vegan. You know the guy who does the free climbing, like these cliffs, like, you know, with the little tip of his finger, and people are dying on it, stuff like that. Vegan. American Ninja, the guy who won it all. He's a vegan. All this different stuff. Because your recovery time is incredible. And you don't have arteriosclerosis. You don't have plaque in your blood vessels. So
let me tell you right now, you're inspiring me. You scared me first, and now you're inspiring, because I've been down this road before. And literally, when I get home, I'm about to do a
You're talking about
day
the
after I
cleanse.
get home, I'm doing
But
a
what you got to
cleanse.
do is just kind of like ease yourself into that lifestyle. And then what you could do, because you're a healthy dude. This guy's fucking unbelievable.
Patrick Bowmanian.
He's not like what you would think, like, you know, you have to be like the size of a
He
house.
looks like a gorilla, which, by the way, are vegan, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's. I mean, look at a rhino and an elephant and all this different stuff, and
Everything with muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, you know, look at all these primates. They got like the strength. There's like pull your arm off or whatever. But it's like you start like, dude. I just like started educating myself, and I'm like, I cannot believe how I was lied to. Like everything that I thought was something was wrong. And
I'll tell you.
And I like to learn about things. I just like to, for the hell of it. But one thing before you say that,
Yeah.
Alzheimer's and dementia. What's it from?
Acid. Having a
Doing too much
acidic-
acid?
No, well, having an acidic. Is it not from having?
Is that
an
what you
acidic-
believe?
I don't. That's my wild guess right now. Stabbing. in the dark.
It's so simple. It's amazing. So simple. And so when do we get dementia and Alzheimer's?
When you're older.
Okay. And so we go through our normal lifestyle.
Oh,
As we go through-
lack of calcium.
No. As we go through our normal lifestyle, we have a collection of plaque and cholesterol and all the different things that build up in our blood vessels. We get high blood pressure. So what happens? So the pipes in our body get smaller, and we're still expecting them to do the same things. So in your brain, you got all this gray material, and then you got these really teeny little blood vessels, shitloads of little teeny blood vessels, right? What do those little blood vessels do when they have a lifetime of animal-based proteins and fats and arteriosclerosis? What happens?
Are you closing them off?
They clog
you're
up,
swelling them up
and
and
they
closing them
stop. And then what happens to that part of the brain?
Dies.
You guys that's why there's no cure for it. We're in such a fucking la la land.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
But, you know,
Your brain
what I was gonna say
starts
is, like,
dying. It goes quiet.
people,
That's why.
I think when you start talking too much, people are like, that's too much. I give up.
Yeah.
I just have to eat some bacon or something. You know what I mean?
No,
but I
but they
can tell you, even
retaliate.
from personal experience, you know what I mean? Like, the interesting thing about life is you take experiences, and you have to get off your phone to do this, but you go have a personal experience, you process the information, you educate yourself, you learn more about it, and you move on. I was a Mr. Meat and Cheese kind of guy for a very, very long time. You know what I mean? I'm your typical American man, you know. But what didn't sit right with me was just driving from Pittsburgh to Denver and saying, how come there's no more room for bison and wolves? Like, that's sad, you know. And then clicking that those resources are all leveled to use to feed the food that we eat in the form of cattle, pigs, chickens, whatever. And so I was like, you know, I can't call myself an animal lover. This is going to be really hard, but I'm going to try to make a lifestyle decision for myself not to overconsume those resources anymore. And a side effect was 3 weeks into it, like I said, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel great. I feel like I wake up with a clear mind. I have a lot of energy. I'm not having headaches, all the aches and pains in my body. It was amazing. I talked to you about it because you knew me during that time when I turned. I was like, this is amazing. I talked to everybody about it. I was like, this is great. We're onto something here.
And I
You know
suffer
what I
from
mean? It's
depression.
amazing.
So if I eat bad, I become very depressed.
Yeah.
Like, it really does. Like,
You think that's why so many people get depressed like around the holidays and stuff like
Well,
that?
I suffer from like seasonal depression, and I have I have like anxiety. But I grew up a very, very shy kid. I didn't like know how to get along with other kids because I wanted to go play with bugs. So then when I grew up to a group of people, all they wanted to do was kill my bugs, and kill my snakes, and I was like, I can't understand you. And they're like, you like animals too much, and we don't understand this, and we want to play with toys. And I'm like, I want to play with toys too, but I love all the animals.
Well, you've inspired me here because I've made a goal this year to participate in a triathlon, and I feel like I'll do much better if I jump on the. Yeah.
So much better, dude. I do Muay Thai, or I haven't done it since COVID, but like I'm in classes for like 20-year-olds and stuff like that, and they don't have any idea. They're like, I don't know how old I am, or like you're doing this stuff, and I'm right there, and
Kevin, how old are you?
that's your fucking problem. So
We need it for the podcast. It's for posterity.
Can you tell me where whiskey fits in with veganism?
It's
or
vegan.
fruit?
It's vegan.
it truly is. Wait, first of all, don't throw me. I'm doing this. You guys are like giving me like peer pressure. You told me like, dude, you're so weak.
We're gonna get
and
you
loser.
wasted
That is
and then
not
go
so
kill a bunch of bugs.
loser.
Never left our mouths.
No, it's I'm not like a really dude. Tara makes me look like a 13-pound girl. She can like destroy wine. I'm like, I can't like drink half a glass of wine and
Well,
like if
what do you think? What do you think of this stuff?
I do like it. I really like the bottle too.
Yeah. So
Well, this is about to get a little cooler for you. So
We need to get
this
into
was
it.
this was sponsored by
Blackened.
We started take a guess. We started a whiskey channel. It's called the Whiskey Wimps. They sponsored this.
No, it's nice. So I like. So you like yours neat.
Yes.
All right, I like mine like a bitch.
No, with some water.
Water.
It's better than ice though, because you still get the flavors. The ice kills the flavor. If you mix a little water, well, you mixed a lot of water.
I mix a lot of water because I'm just like a little baby, but I still want to hang with you guys. So
Well, you know what makes this whiskey even
just use
cooler?
it like mouthwash.
This is. You notice the name of the whiskey?
blackened.
Just take a guess.
Isn't it blackened?
That is the name of the whiskey. It's called Blackened. I'm just seeing where he takes it from.
I'm not saying anything, probably because he's turning around and saying I'm racist or something.
No,
Like,
no.
Nope. I'm turning that away.
Here's one more clue, and then I'll just give it to you. Look at the top of the lid. Not that it's on brand, but
The M? Wait, I'm too stupid. What am I looking at?
yeah, it's an M.
Okay.
And then look again at the name of what the whiskey's called again. And put two and two together. Who makes that whiskey?
M blackened.
Dave.
Well, that's remastered by Dave
also
Picker
too
or whatever.
stupid.
That's not us.
This is terrible. I don't want
this
any.
is-
I'm
oh,
too
no, this-
stupid.
There's a reason why I'm not getting this, but Kevin, you should be getting this as you hold your guitar.
Oh, oh my God. I was like one of the first things I'm saying, like black, and I'm like, yeah, Metallica. But I'm like,
This is Metallica's whiskey. Yeah.
How cool is that? You're welcome.
this is Metallica's whiskey?
Yes.
Here you go.
So,
It's my first time
you know what I
trying
love about, obviously, so Metallica to me had died like in a plane crash. Like, because the
Or
old
on a bus
Metallica,
ride, you mean?
or something like that. But James Hetfield loves honeybees. And I watch this thing and I'm like, all right, James, you can be lame on your music and be a shadow of what you were, but you love honeybees. And like, he's like, I just want to be like on my farm and all that. And I'm like, I love that. Because it's like, because he was exposed to everything and then he just like simplifies, his pleasure. And he like wants to talk about it and tell you the honeybees are dying. And to me, that is like, what,
Kevin, why are animals so important to you? Why
that's
is that?
a really good question.
I mean, obviously you're connected with them
I'm
for some reason.
always like
Why?
a defender of like the weak, I guess, or whatever. And now you're talking about something with no voice and stuff like that. And I think is our responsibility as a civilized creature to have respect for the things that we basically victimize in our day-to-day lives, I myself included. And it's the balance. You have to pay for it. And then as more I got into animals, they are exactly what we think they are. People, your best friend in the world, will sell you down the river or do something to you. And how many times have you had somebody?
What was the famous Steve Irwin quote? Like, crocodiles are easy; they just want to kill you.
Yeah.
People sometimes pretend to be nice first.
Yeah, that's it. And,
People are
I
hard.
worked with Steve Irwin. He was wonderful, and that was a very, very October day of really sadness. But we won't talk about that because that's really sad, and there's no silver lining to that. But just the animal thing, I think it's pretty simple. When I was a little kid, a lot of bad things happened to me. So I didn't talk to anybody, so I would go out in the woods, and the only thing I could find something to do or something, whatever, happened to be animals. And then I was like, they were what they were. You know, like a salamander was a salamander. And
when you're part of this creation, where you're part of this environment, and so I think you're inherently connected. You know, if you shut up and you go out and you sit down, you're connected with stuff. I see this in my daughter. This is my attempt to define what's going on, because my daughter's like this. She calls herself the bug lover on Instagram. She has her own thing. She's the one with the scorpion, right? Kira. She doesn't get along with the other kids. So she goes to the corner of the playground, she sits down, and she looks at the bugs.
That was me.
And she fits in. Why? Not because she acts like a bug or thinks like a bug, but there's some kind of connection. That's what I'm trying to figure it out.
So
you know?
I started with like fish, tropical fish, and
as far as keeping goes?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
So you create a little ecosystem in your house. So you've got your bedroom, and all of a sudden, you know, I got an area where I got a fish tank, and then it becomes a room where I got some snakes and fish. But that is like when you walk in there, all these animals are there for you to admire, but then they also create like an alternate safe place for you. So, you know, like if you have an extra room and you got snake racks or whatever, you're creating a place that you go in there and it's like, this is your place. This is like your little magic place. And you look at this and you look at this crazy looking ball python. You look at this great gecko, this amazing chameleon, and you can lose yourself in that. And you escape all of realities. I guess a perfect example would be a fish tank. So if I set up a 55-gallon community tank and I had a really stressful job, to almost any single person, and they all had very stressful jobs, I could put this 55-gallon tank in a place in their home or someplace, and I could sit them all down in front of it, and they would all pretty much come out with the same thing, like, wow. Like, it calmed me down, because you lose yourself. You lose yourself in the nature of the animal and the mesmerizing thing, and like, how is that fish this, and how is that? Because there's so many answers you don't know about, but you lose yourself, and you let your problems go away for a little bit. And we're very much into escapism.
Is it because
Escapism.
our problems are things that we're trying to add to our life, and maybe sometimes the answer is just stripping it away? When you look at a fish, it's just a neon tetra or whatever, right, and they're schooling, and they move left, and they move right, and it's calming, and it's peaceful, because it's just a tetra being a tetra, and that's it.
But you don't have to, like, when I was
sometimes
a little kid,
just
all
wish
the bad
I could
problems
be me.
that I couldn't, like, navigate through,
Yeah.
I could look at, like, ants, or like, I'm going to make an ant farm, and it was like that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And it was like, there's always some weird thing that I wanted to do, and it just continued. I'm going to breed fish. And I was just dying to breed fish. And I'm going to do something, which basically, when you breed something, you're starting to, like, prove that you understand the animal more.
Yeah, right. You take it through its entire life cycle, not just a little section
And you're responsible for life, because the average human, all we do is cease life. We end life. We take away life. We remove their lives so we can do all the different things. And the only life we really create is a child. And then that child is then, once again, is destroying all those things. So it's basically taking all these lives for that one life, because it's of a higher intellect.
So I have a question. I want to play the devil's advocate for a minute, okay? Just because I'm really liking where this conversation is going. I think a lot of people would see, maybe ignorant people, from my perspective, they would be ignorant. I think a lot of people would see hypocrisy in you saying,
Oh yeah.
no, listen, that you want to appreciate life, and yet you partake in a pet trade
Yes.
and an industry
Yes.
that removes life. Captive breeding, like your ball pythons, are kind of a different thing because they're gone way beyond that. But let's take, for example, like, you know, the collection of, you know, water monitors.
Okay, that's great. Okay, stick with water monitors. Keep
Yes.
going.
Okay. Yeah. So you're taking water monitors out of the wild, and the pet trade has historically done bad things to the environment. It definitely has in certain cases.
I'm not arguing. I'm just waiting
Yeah.
for you to finish your
No.
statement.
So I guess my question is, like, you seem to have thought a lot of this stuff through. What would you say to the people who are like, no, I see hypocrisy. You say you're all about life, but you're still consuming that animal and putting that fish in that tank or that water monitor in captivity for your own personal consumption and enjoyment.
I'm a massive hypocrite.
Okay.
I'm a misanthrope. I hate the animal that you are. I hate the animal that I am. I am horrible. I have my footprint in what I take. No, I'm not. No. This isn't me.
I'm not saying
this is not me talking down. This
Okay.
is me being disgusted by myself, by Tara, by Barbara, by all of us, because we're all fucking humans. And all I'm doing is I'm being treasonous to humans because I am pointing out all the negatives. But if we take water monitors, okay. So
yeah, I
I got
guess the
some water
question is
monitors
why-
out of the wild. How many water monitors did I get out of the wild?
Well, 20.
Okay, but stop crinkling. Okay.
Water break. Well,
Hey.
a water monitor.
Hold on, I'm not done.
Yeah, okay. You took 20. Let's say you took 20, or maybe you took 200. I don't know.
It's like the bull. This is the China shop. There's the bull, guys. That's Barb.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay. So
Let's say you
how many water monitors?
Let's say you took 200 to get your colony established. Do you think that maybe be like fair
Too many.
overall?
That's too many.
Do you think that's too many?
Yes, I
Well,
didn't.
let's say 40 made it to you, but 160 died on the way
okay.
here.
So I won't know.
So,
Okay.
so your footprint.
Okay.
And I'm just for the sake of the argument, let's just say it's 200. Because, I mean, you're one of the biggest water monitor guys out there.
Okay.
You're probably the largest consumer of water monitors that's not skin trade related,
so
right?
We'll look at the
For the
bigger.
pet
Okay.
trade.
So have you ever seen monitor skin videos?
I don't think I want to. I can imagine it, though. I've been in Asia. I've seen some of the skin trade stuff happen.
What they can do in minutes
Yeah.
is when they get these animals and they render them.
Yeah.
It is when they're going along in the boats with those waterways and they're getting them. They can get those numbers real quick, and then they harvest them, and then they skin them so fast.
Yeah.
So let's say, not that it's 200, but let's say it
Well,
was
you know,
whatever.
we don't know what the number
yeah,
is,
you're,
but let's
you're
just-
never going to know the number.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have my founding stock.
Okay.
What have I done with my founding stock? And have I now created an alternate, much higher quality source, which then...
So that I don't have to take 200 to get into monitors.
Okay,
I can
exactly.
Buy them
So
from you.
now I'm in 5 generations removed from the wild.
Okay.
So that's, and you know, when I first got my first monitor, I had not a clue how to breed it. And I might have a little bit of a clue how to breed it.
You hand me one of those.
And so that, with some success, obviously a lot of times you take the animals from the wild and nothing positive ever comes of it. They vanish. But I was lucky with water monitors. I was able to authenticate my core breeding colony, and now I can make a lot of water monitors, especially if I set my mind to it. I can make a lot of fancy water monitors and all this different stuff. And it depends on my emotional psyche if I'm making 30 of them or if I'm making 300 of them, whatever it is. But there's a lot of good in that. And, founding stock and then getting that where it's doing things, there is a lot of purpose. So, the whole conservation through commercialization. So I probably understand.
Well, like I said, nobody cares about something until it's worth money.
I probably understand more about water monitors than most people. So if you go to the Philippines, where let's say they have maybe nuchalis that are like failing. You know, it's funny. I have friends in Indonesia. They can't breed water monitors.
Really?
They cannot breed
It seems like you just put it outside in a cage and
That's what they do.
yeah.
How come I breed them and they can't?
I don't know. That's weird. You're in New Hampshire.
Because I know, because you know why? I understand the psychological thing. And there's certain, there's certain people that are, really good. I have a buddy, Danny Gorman, and Danny Gorman, he's in Bali.
Yeah.
And he's, great access to these monitors. And Danny sees the monitors for what they are, and he breeds them very well.
Yeah.
And you can do these things, but you have to, it's only certain people can do this because of their mindset and what they believe and da-da-da-da-da.
Well, like you said, I think if you are breeding them, it shows that your husbandry, like what the animal needs according to that definition of that animal, is on point.
One thing I always say is see the animal for what it is, not what you want it to be. I was trying to say that today earlier, but whatever. But see the animal see the animal for what it is, not what you want it to be. Yeah. And let's say if we take dogs. Mm-hmm. What a joke. We might as well take the dog and dress it up in Barbie little outfits because we have so removed that dog from being a dog, even though the dog is like, I'm a friggin' dog. Put me around a couple other dogs and watch me act like a dog. And our denying of that and our this and that, like dogs don't understand violence because I think, it's pack mentality and we have a tier and, strength. Whether it's a monkey, a legion of monkeys or whatever the frig it is, a pack of wild monkeys. they have a troop of monkeys. They have the probably the strongest, scariest male that the subordinate beta monkeys like. Don't mess with big mean monkey because he'll kill you. And that puts them in their place, and then they have subordinate monkeys to that. But you create the thing. So, like, the worst thing is, like, I have a dog, and I have a chihuahua, and I put a bowl of food, and every time I go near the bowl, and the chihuahua's like, doing that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, stay away from Fido because whatever. I have just screwed up the basics of dog psychology.
You just baited yourself.
Well, because I just allowed that dog to challenge me, and now that dog's like, maybe I'm going to be alpha, right? So the dog is not a subordinate member of your family. So now it's growling at me, but then I have a kid. Then the kid, who's definitely subordinate of me, walks over to the dog dish and he's like, goes down there, and the dog bites him in the lip. Because I just set that dog up to fail. If I take that dog and make sure that dog knows there's 3 people in the house, we are all the dominant animals, whatever our pecking orders, and the dog is below that. Once the dog knows and knows its place, doesn't need to challenge it, its psychological place is like, it knows where it is and it belongs. So a troop of monkeys, same kind of thing. If I take there's a circle of 10 people, right? And I take a spider monkey. And that spider monkey is a little male spider monkey. So he recognizes, who's dominant, whatever. Take that little male spider monkey out, or it could be a female, whatever. That spider monkey, you know what the first thing that spider monkey does? For his own safety and his own well-being, what's the first thing that monkey does?
What are you talking about? When you take it out of its enclosure or something?
There's 10 of us all standing around. And the monkey comes out to meet us. And the monkey's like, oh, shit. What's going on? What's the first thing the monkey does?
I don't know. I'm thinking either shits or runs and hides, or I'm going the other side. I'm going prison and goes for the biggest person and try and take him out.
Well, I think if you have the established relationship with the monkey, it's going to stick close to you.
No.
Oh, you don't.
None of us know the monkey.
Oh, okay. I got you.
The first thing the monkey does, because the monkey wants to survive, first thing the monkey does is it looks at all the people and finds the alpha, finds the most dominant, and then goes over to the dominant and is submissive to the dominant. And why? Because if it is submissive to the dominant and it is accepted by the dominant, it just placed itself potentially higher than all the other 9. Think about that. Dogs will do the same kind of thing. And people are like, it's
people do
amazing.
too. I see it. In,
Oh no,
all
I'm
the
not. I'm
time
not
now
saying
with
people.
all the
no.
reptile YouTubers.
Dude, I'm not saying. I'm not
There's the
saying.
alpha YouTuber.
No, I'm
We
not.
still hang out right next to
I'm
him.
not even. I'm not even saying anything like that. But like, once they find
I'm
their
saying it.
place and they know like their niche, they can like kind of like settle. I know where I am. Not like constantly vying to go up. But if you put out the wrong signals to a dog like growls at you, woo, back down, or you let it growl at one person, not the other person, you're creating these questions. And that dog, all that dog wants to do is find its placement. And at some point, it might re-challenge. So in a day-to-day life, it might re-challenge because it wants to be closer to that alpha, or it might want to replace the alpha. So it might do these little micro re-challenges, but on a normal household, it's like you're always going to be the little dog.
And you always have to give them micro corrections. And then you never have the macro problem, right? Because you've built up all these little experiences in its head where it knows that you're the one that's doing the correcting, right?
And you know what that comes down to? Power and violence. Because if I watch wolves, you ever see wolves that explosive, crazy, like coyotes, and they go to biting their muzzles, and you're like, oh my God, it's so violent. But some of that is just like such aggression and such a display of I can really fuck you up. But they might not be doing it unless it's a rival animal that's part of not of that family or not of the pack. Yeah. Then it's like, you're a rival, I'm going to destroy you, or whatever, and it's a completely different thing. But they'll do all that, and they quickly clarify. So if I'm an effective pack, I'm going to have my tier, the most important animals to maybe the youngest, which is essentially the weakest or the least important to the success of that pack. But I need those alpha animals and the subordinate animals, which are the core of that group. And how the fuck did I get onto that subject? Your whiskey's that little bit, dude, that little bit. And I'm like,
I like it. Well, actually, here's my question. So, one of the things, we just went to dinner and we were talking about how do we correct the issues within the reptile industry. And one of the things, so like a wolf pack or whatever, if the alpha's like, hey, we're gonna go hunt this elk, and nobody listens to him, nobody eats. One of the things we were talking about in the reptile community, and to the shame of reticulated python keepers in particular, is that when the whole Lasiac thing was going down, people weren't hunting the elk. People weren't stepping up. People weren't going in and doing that kind of stuff. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. There's like, I think everybody wants to be the alpha. And so if they see someone who is actually, doing things or being successful or doing good or implementing change or having some kind of a, people get jealous of influence. And if they see someone else influencing, they undermine. They, like a chihuahua at the food. Am I right?
Oh, sure.
So I guess I'm just being like silly right now. I just want to like chase down the thought process, right? So maybe this is the wrong way, but if it's pack mentality,
we're more complicated than that. Although a lot of the discussion has been we're just an animal as humans, we are more complicated than an animal.
Tribes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got our ability to communicate across airwaves.
but it's the same. But it's the same thing.
You can't enforce your pack
correct
mentality across the airwaves.
I don't know about that.
Yes, you do. Because if you're talking about the alpha being determined by force and violence, if you're separated by a computer and so much distance, that force and violence doesn't
saying
mean
like,
anything.
okay, let's a wolf pack with the violence. I'm just saying that is some of the basic controls.
I suppose what I'm saying is maybe it's not like dominance and violence. Maybe that's kind of like when there's no leader, that's going to be everywhere as everyone's trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But maybe there just needs to be some kind of a leadership.
So, with the animals, we have like biomass, power, violence, and all these different things. And obviously in some things, cunning and all that stuff. But humans, we can be formidable just with our brains because our willingness to create bad situations or, we involve weapons and we can poison. I could being a 160-pound man, go poison the strongest man in the world.
Yeah.
And he didn't know I put something in his drink because I'm devious. and I'm this or I'm that.
You're making me nervous here, Kevin. You're making me nervous.
we're so devious and whatever. So it's not really, it's not necessarily violence, although violence can be a big thing. But, we're today in a day and age like, cancel culture, and you can just say something, just call somebody like the Me Too movement. Like, imagine how many, I always get incensed about is, I watch these videos and like, you see like this, let's say as an example, like a black man that's been in prison for 30 years because he was just like a black man that like, I came out of a store and there was a black man, he just did something, and then they do it, and then they just hang it on him, and he's in jail for 30 years. I become incredibly incensed by that because there's nothing you can do to return that person's fucking life, and it's so wrong. It makes me nuts. And wait, hold on, I lost my track. This is terrible.
Metallica.
We were on the pack mentality. We were on the being able to enforce things, being able to destroy somebody with your mind.
Absolutely, yeah. So we definitely. So
and I was searching
very,
for
very
a
different
vehicle for leadership. That's kind of what I was wondering.
How do you have leadership? So let's say if I look at USARC,
Yeah.
USARC has to be methodically groomed. Every single thing that USARC has to do so as to make sure everybody they're associated with cannot be a person. I was talking about the Me Too movement, or you just accuse somebody of something, and you can just accuse somebody. It has nothing to do with reality. I was just saying. So you could say that man did something, and all of a sudden he goes to jail for 30 years. You could, even though he didn't do it, and then DNA later on proves that he didn't do it. But you can sit here, the Me Too movement can sit here and say, this man did this or whatever, and if he didn't do it, still destroys. You can call somebody a pedophile. You can do all these different things. We're like in this time and age where you just say one little thing, and you know what? Like 100 truths are a lot of times not as powerful as one lie.
As long as the lie is juicy. You look at the Salem witch trials, the communist hunt. Those are historical.
The Spanish Inquisition?
Yeah, right. Well, even the French Revolution. You know what I'm saying? People just they start to get crazy for stuff.
So go back.
It's juicy.
So USARC, very, very groomed. So they have to be. It can't be fallible. So like we have Subway, Jared, who became whatever they say. Okay, so they had this guy,
sandwich place,
right? And they had this guy, and then they invested millions of dollars, and that was their brand. And then suddenly, their guy is being accused of whatnot. And
you have Bill Cosby with Jell-O and whatnot.
Yeah,
same kind of thing. Like, oh no,
that's
Tiger Woods for golf. I mean, I don't know.
I don't really know about the Tiger Woods thing. I mean, obviously Cosby, and I loved Bill Cosby, and
Well, I just mean, like even Tiger Woods, it was like a lesser thing or whatever, but it kind of
like. Hold on, how's it compared to USARC? Like, what's the tie here?
They have to be very middle of the road. They have to be. They can't say anything colorful. Every single thing has to be like groomed, because if they sign on, let's say if they support somebody and then that person is whatever, it could take us down so easy. We're so very vulnerable. So when you have these pinnacle people like the leader, a lot of times if you want to be the leader, you have to be above reproach. But how are you going to captivate your audience and have that charisma and all that stuff in today's day and age? But also, every single thing has to be vanilla. Yeah. Vanilla, excuse me.
I got you.
Has to be.
I got you.
How do you do that? How
do you do that?
I don't know. Like, okay, look at Steve Irwin. When he was holding his kid, near the crocodile, and they were just destroying him, and like Michael Jackson, like waving to people out the window or whatever, and his kid. The further you go up, there's always people throwing these horrific, spears at you. And it doesn't even matter if the spear is even real or if it's true. You can really suffer, fall from grace. Like how people turn their backs at a time at Steve Irwin, but now we don't really think about that. But Michael Jackson, like, I can't. I mean, the guy is so ultimately talented, and then the stuff that they're accusing him of and all that, I don't believe it. I mean, he's a little probably messed up in the head, I think.
Who do you think was more talented, Michael Jackson or Prince?
Oh, Michael Jackson.
Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. I'm
Mi-
with
Podcast is
Kevin.
over.
What? Michael Jackson?
I'm with you.
Holy crap. Michael Jackson? Oh my God, just watching, he was such a perfectionist. And it just, what he demanded of himself. And you could see how pained he was. Look how, like, you could see how pained. Look, he transformed himself into a complete different person. It's just like, he got this, like, twisted version of, like, what he should look like. And
I think we need to be careful
That's
as
probably
humans
industry
because
thing.
one thing that I've noticed is true is that pain breeds more pain. Hurt people is the saying, right? And so it's really, I think it's important that we are, all this ranting that we're going on about the environment and the destructive
when's
tendencies
this
of
podcast
humans.
begin?
We're going to start it in
pretty
just a
soon.
minute, yeah. But all of
After we
that,
finish this bottle.
yeah, Kevin, you got to drink some more. You're not there yet. No, but like all this ranting that we're going on, I think. Oh crap! I lost my. Never mind.
See, blackened. It's just the blackened holes. I literally had like the teeniest little bit. Tara will
we
be.
need a positive. We need a.
Oh, we need more self-awareness. That was the main point. I don't remember how I was getting there. I think self-awareness helps a lot. You know what I mean? To see things like bigger than what this situation that we're
We
going
need some
through.
kind of solution for
We need to be able
one
to
of
get
the.
over stuff.
We need some kind of solution for at least one of the problems that we presented today. We need to come up with some kind of solution before this podcast can start. So, if any of you, I'm ears here. Like, what is the solution to one of the problems? Just even one of the problems we presented today, or anything. A small solution of some kind. I can't just ingest all of these different problems that we have existing and not have some kind of solution.
I think the easy answer is that Brian has to become vegan. Can we agree on that? Yeah. There it is. We've got it.
I'll tell you one thing. You can. So that the solution is, you cannot bring me an argument while being a meat eater or an animal consumer, why there's any benefit, why there's anything, there's like a health benefit there, anything. It's more destructive of the environment because, when you.
What's the solution here? What's the?
I think. Well, I love this. And one thing I do love is like these new generations. They they're more likely to think about eating more like a vegan thing or whatever. They might have empathy for animals or whatever. But it's starting to take hold.
I think they don't do things like us, and it frustrates us.
I'm not talking about eating fucking French fries.
No, I'm saying like the new generation doesn't do things like the old generation, and it drives us insane on one hand, but on the other hand, they're very connected to the world, and they're willing to depart from tradition. Don't you think? They're disconnected from what's happening right around them, but
LOL. Like, I mean, like that.
No. They're more connected globally, less connected locally. Does that make sense?
So tell me about the benefit.
Well,
How do you turn that into a benefit?
I think it has yet to be seen.
Right.
I think that the new generation has potential.
No.
But the problem is I do
getting
think
dumber.
Perhaps.
Well, maybe we're just getting older and smarter
No.
as we get older.
No, they've actually done studies that
we're not getting older and smarter.
Our average IQ has actually gone down. So let's just be realistic, okay? If I go look at China, the average IQ in China, the schooling, what they're able to do.
Oh, so when you say we, you mean Americans. North Americans.
We're lazy. Look, our schooling is a fucking joke. I went through a really good school. I was a juvenile delinquent. I was like bad, okay? I went to Lexington High School in Massachusetts, and really good education in the background. And I only, gleaned what I did, and it was enough to kind of get me through life. But the education that is now occurring is an absolute joke because we've weakened things. the expectations. Before, when I grew up, it's like, you don't pass your test, you fail. You'll stay back. All this different stuff. There was no.
Do you not stay back if you fail anymore?
I'm talking about school.
I know.
But no. But this is the basis. This is our instructions in life. It is like how our brain works, how we manage things, how we look. Do we take a workload? Do we follow through on the workload and complete it by completing our assignment, getting passing grades, actually getting exceptional grades? All these different things. Do we do chores? Do anything like that? We have now set the bar so low, and even when we get an F, we can turn around and say the teacher's a racist.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm
not about that.
No, but that's where we're at. My friend, this is the most amazing thing.
There's a lack of personal accountability.
Okay, so this pretty much, in my opinion, this spells it out. So I have a friend, and with the COVID, starting back in April, they started doing the remote school, right? And the kid's like in final, he already stayed back 1 year, and he's in the final year of high school. And there was the teachers are telling him, he needs to do this type of some kind of math, all right? And he writes a letter to the principal and his guidance counselor and the school board. I read the letter, and basically he says, I'm not going to do your new math. I haven't done it before. I'm not going to fucking start doing it now. And yeah, you can keep me back, and I know who the fuck you are. And he's like,
the kid's saying this.
Oh yes, and he's swearing.
Wow.
And he goes, I know who you are, and if you want to fucking keep me back, then you suck. And all I was like swears, right? And he writes all this thing. So you just figure it out, but I'm not doing it. And if you fail me, it's I know who you are, whatever. And then he goes, signed this guy, and it's a picture of himself. He sent this to the principal, to the school board, and everything. And I saw this thing, and I'm like, it's his stepkid, so it's not even his kid. He's like, can you believe this? I'm like, it's the most horrific thing that you would disrespect a school faculty, a school principal. When you go to school, you better have respect for your teachers, because they're there as they are the pinnacle of information that they're supposed to give to you to make you better.
Yeah, you're biting the hands that feed you. They're there to help you.
He wrote that, and I was like, oh my God, they're going to fail him. He passed. He didn't have to do anything.
Well, it's probably, I'm imagining now, okay, well, we don't want this problem.
Right.
Let's
So it's
pass it along
happening
to somebody
over and
else.
over and over again. So I have a friend who's a university professor.
Build the problem up and pass it to the next guy.
Unbelievable what he's going through. He has dumbed down his curriculum so much. He says, and he laughs at me, he goes, the degree that these people are getting is an absolute joke. They're paying a lot of money, and he goes, but what they're getting is nothing. I go and do lectures on genetics, and I'm going through, Punnett squares and talking about all genetics and explaining it all. And there's college students in my class, at my lecture, eating Dunkin' Donuts, playing on phones, and they're allowed to do all that because, God forbid, you try to not do it. When I went to college for electronics and computers. Nothing. If we just got bombed with homework and assignments and this and that. I was actually a tutor in school, so I made a little money.
Here's my problem. We keep on presenting more problems.
Yeah,
I need a solution to at least one of them.
You're supposed to become vegan, Brian.
I feel like that may be one of the big solutions, as much as probably a lot of people do not want to accept that. If it makes your brain work better, if it makes your body work better, if it cuts back on pollution and industrial destruction of the world.
It needs to be balanced. There's a lot of unbalanced.
Yeah, there's bad vegetable-based proteins and there's bad techniques and herbicides, and if we're rotation of crops, and if we're just constantly just dumping the same things, we're literally pulling all the minerals out of the ground. So if we look at wheat back in 1950 versus
my wife has taught me all about this.
Yeah, so that's a legit thing. But what you do is you rotate crops. So you put one type of crop, and if you keep on putting the same crop in the same area, you're gonna set it up for disease.
Soil. Yeah,
no, but you have to set up for disease, because whatever happens, you get zoonotic type diseases when you have something. There's always a counter thing that nature puts out there. Eventually, the success of something has to, if it just keeps going out of control, it needs to be, hindered or needs to be rendered so we pull the strong out. So if we have,
people
if we have
people
100,
need to be failed
so imagine this, if we had 100 people and that gave way to 100 million people. So those 100 people that gave way to 100 million, if I looked at the gene stock of the 100 million and I looked at the gene stock of the 100 people, and if I said what was stronger, what has the best gene stock per individual, what would it be?
Well, obviously the 100.
Right? Because they did that. So as we propagate and as we spread out, we are creating inherent weaknesses. Then you have a zoonotic disease or a pandemic or whatever, and that nicks it back, and it's kind of like nature's way of survival of the fittest.
Right.
And so basically you're doing is you're limiting your gene stocks and you're bringing it back down, and in theory the fastest deer would get away from the mountain lion.
Sure.
Not the weakest little gimpy deer, because that would be taken out and that doesn't add to the gene stock.
So right now Americans are like we got a bunch of, the mountain lions are like, oh, little weak deer, I feel bad for you.
There's no mountain lion. We got rid of them all. We've got rid of, there's no.
I was making an analogy between.
No, we're as weak as we can get.
Even in society, there's no mountain lions. If
But-
that kid passes school, the mountain lion is you fail, you get held back, you learn to do this right, and then you can move on and participate in society. But now no, I'm going to build up your problem and pass you on.
But look at everything
it's like having no mountain lions.
You're
There's
too
no
mean.
consequences.
Bullying, all this different stuff. If you go to like
Don't give me
China,
consequences. I hate
the parents are like, you can do better. Like Russia, you could, or let's say we take an Olympics where they take the, if you probably go to China, like I watched a thing on these like musicians in China, like these little kids, and they were playing amazing stuff because literally they are being challenged to the nth degree, and you could probably say it's inhumane and whatever. What they're doing is they're extracting the best that person, that animal can do. In the United States, oh, don't do.
I would say
so we create the weakest.
I'm doing that with my kids.
Yeah,
right
but
now.
it's dude. I grew up in a
too.
very strict life. I grew up with food stamps, powdered milk, no sweetened cereal. When we bought clothes, once a year I could buy new clothes. Everything, it was like Goodwill, Morgan Memorial. It was always old clothes. It was always this. And you know what that did? Tempered. It's the tempering of steel. The good, the bad. Hot, cold, but it's the tempering. And a lot of bad things happened to me as a kid, like really like bad things. And it happened, and that's just the way it is. And it made me exactly who I am with my problems, but it also, it kind of like, it refined me, not defined me or whatever, but it made me strong. And I'm surrounded by so much weakness. And they're like, how are you this way? And it's like, that's how I survived. I had to be strong. And now we're, if I look at an average, probably 10-year-old kid in China with education, and I look at an average 10-year-old kid in the United States with education, and you said, which one's got all the bells and whistles? A kid in China's got all that kid is like, you can speak 2 languages, you're bilingual, you're this and that. And I'm looking at the 10-year-old American, the kid's drooling all over his iPhone. And then if I take the iPhone, that loses his mind because I took away the toy. How can we possibly think that that's a good thing? It's ridiculous.
So, I don't know how this is implemented, but I do think it's you said yourself, let's say, whether you agree with like the vegan movement or not, right? You were saying like this new generation is more willing to accept changes. There is a mindset among the veganism. You're like, I'm going to make a sacrifice for a greater good that I believe in. That's really like at the base of it, right? Whether or not you believe dietary things is this bad for that, even if you didn't believe all that, you can't say like, it's clear that somebody is sacrificing something for something they believe in. if those kinds of movements are proliferating in today's world, I would say the hope of the future is that they are willing to sacrifice for something that is at the outside of themselves. They're globally connected. They can see the big picture. That's the strength. The weakness is where they depart culturally. Traditionally, culture, hands down, it's just like even in the animal kingdom, the monkey that learns how to wash the yams in the salt water to give it flavor or whatever, and that's been handed down for how many generations among monkeys. We have access to information where even if we had terrible parents or a community that didn't understand, we can learn something from someone who imparted their knowledge to a book 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. We have this extensive human history we can learn from, but the weakness of the new generation would be the unwillingness to learn things that are difficult there for their own good. They'll sacrifice for a greater good, but they don't understand where they need to sacrifice for their own good. So I would think that the solution, if you want to be successful moving forward or implement change moving forward, help to reverse some of these problems, if you can somehow learn to respect the life experience and the collective lessons learned from previous generations and implement that to your own willingness to suffer for something greater, I think you could be successful. It would require something that is very rare today, and that's self-discipline. Self-discipline.
Certainly very, very, very rare.
What do you think?
Sadly, it's like trying to nail a big blob of Jell-O to a tree. There it is, bam. As soon as you let go of it, it flops on the floor. Because, okay, think about this. What's that?
A plastic bottle of water.
Okay. How many years is it going to take before we realize, holy fuck, we were drinking water in plastic that, like, leaches, PPEs, or whatever.
No, yeah.
All these horrible things that we like, these industrial.
Sadly, industrialization has done so much damage so quickly. We haven't been able to learn fast enough to keep up.
Microplastic in our sea salt. Mm-hmm. It's the canary flew out of the cave.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, there's that chemical attached to the plastic that they name it the forever chemical.
The PP. That's a poly.
It doesn't go. It never.
It doesn't break down. It never breaks down. So it's once if I release a molecule, so like one into that Olympic-sized swimming pool, and it literally that is now polluted. One drop, and it's.
So we're fucked.
We're definitely, and so then it shows that it causes all sorts of birth defects and like cleft lips and all these different things with pregnant women.
Maybe this is ignorant optimism, but look at things like Chernobyl, where it's like this place is going to be rotten and horrible for 10,000 years, and it's actually already coming back.
Nope. You know who Jeremy Wade is?
No.
River Monsters? So I'm very close to like Icon Films.
Okay.
So it's Harry Marshall. So they were trying to pitch a show called Slither Monsters, and I was going to be the guy. And then they were trying to do Snake King and Reptiles. Whatever. They were trying to do like these reality shows, and that's another complete story. So anyways, so River Monsters is owned by Icon Films, and that's who I deal with.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So
I do know who you're talking about.
Harry Marshall was telling me they went to Chernobyl.
Okay.
And he's telling me about all of the mutant creatures, all the fish with giant growths on them.
No, I believe that. I understand that. What I'm saying is, they're talking about this place is ruined basically like what seems like forever, 10,000 years or whatever. There won't be plants able to grow here, but they are growing. So obviously that's bad. I'm not saying
that's a horrible example because it's all coming with a price. Okay, so if I'm a plant, I'm a pretty basic, simple, tolerant organism, okay?
Yeah.
As we start going up into vertebrate, type things. There's a lot more for the
Complex
success.
systems and
And they're also that much more vulnerable. So I could have a dandelion grow, but I couldn't have Brian Cusco sit there and go,
I understand.
This is great. 6 months have gone by. Brian, you have giant burn blisters all over you and malignant things. And it's like,
I understand
It comes.
Cusco is Czechoslovakian Russian, so I might be able to survive.
Okay, so you could be, but that would be a horrible example. It's not a good example because
All I'm saying is like the hopeless predictions of what would happen to that place because of an awful, potentially one of the worst like human kind of like toxicity, concentrated events in history, right? The prediction, like nature and those systems are already doing what they can to begin breaking it down. Now, so I guess the question is, if we're past the point of term.
you're talking about a half-life of isotopes.
No, I'm talking about.
Didn't somebody invent
Radioactive.
some kind of? Didn't somebody somebody create something that could eat and break down the plastic? Did they not? Wasn't there?
So they're talking about like a microbe or a bacteria. So we have like
The question
we're talking
is
about
how
algae that could provide fuel, and I think
You were talking about the systems in nature that come in and balance everything out, and that's where we got lost. If we overwhelm the mechanism in too many places all at once, that's talking about the homogenation or the sterilization of the environments and whatnot,
is
then it's done.
1/100th full.
Okay.
Right, Garrett? That's,
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah,
That,
100th
I
full.
appreciate that little bit of positivity.
No, it's all right.
I really do. No,
but
I
okay,
appreciate
so
it.
if you're
I
if
understand,
you're
but there
a
has to be-
bacteria or a microbe that breaks down the plastic, remember what it breaks it down to must not be equally as problematic. So can it break it down into a component
A useful
that is then
resource.
useful
Yeah.
in the environment and not a detriment of the environment?
here's-
That's the big question.
But here's the basis of my existence. Okay, the absolute basis of my existence.
He's been drinking too much, folks.
Yeah, we're getting here. The basis of my existence is
How many people are in your audience? Like 6?
Listen,
there's at
7
least
now.
8.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
and it
at
goes
least
back
8.
and forth. It's like 6.5 because we got this one guy that keeps subscribing and then unsubscribing again,
Well,
depending
he's
on
mad
who we
at
have
you.
on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he's very emotional.
6.5.
So the basis of my existence is I'm born into a planet and I'm handed a situation. Okay, and I have the only control that I have around my environment is that I can go somewhere and leave it worse off or better than when I was there previously. So hopefully, in some way, somehow, I've come here to Nerd for a couple of days, and I would like to think, like, even in a minute way, that somehow it's a little bit better than before I came. That would be my hope. So that's all I have. That's all I can do. Chernobyl happened way outside of my influence, my area of influence, you know. But what can I do to make the world a little bit better instead of a little bit worse? And I think collectively, if humans do that, whether you're talking about problems in the environment, the reptile industry, our legislative process, if we can all make things a little bit better instead of a little bit worse, we all have different spheres of influence and we all have different abilities to change things. You look at certain people, even in modern history, they've changed a lot. I think like Elon Musk has done a lot to change things. He's certainly made people think. You know, it's interesting what he's doing. He's presenting new things. So he has a lot of influence. We have 8 listeners, and so I have a little bit of influence. But if I can make things a little bit better for those 8 listeners, that's all I can do. That's the base of my existence. I can choose to make it better or worse, and that's it.
I can tell you my trip to Nerd is going to make me a little bit better because I'm actually going to go, after I finish that cleanse, I'm going to be eating a lot more vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds.
Well, I think that's why this, you know, it's
Hummus,
like...
chickpeas.
Yeah, I love
Hummus
hummus.
is freaking great.
I love hummus.
It's like, you know, in the Iron
Baba
Age,
ganoush.
they would sharpen
Big fan of baba
a
ganoush.
sword using iron. You know what I mean?
Wow, really?
Yeah, and it made, well, the idea is iron sharpens iron. That's what we're doing here. It's like
We always went. Every
there's
time
a
my family-
grinding, there's a conflict involved, but I think everybody here I don't know. If I didn't have access to you, you didn't have access to me, we didn't have this conversation.
Hey, I was just playing guitar and you just like walked in my bedroom like,
Well, that's true. I didn't say I was invited.
I didn't know anything about it.
I felt
I
bad.
just said that
felt
I
bad
am
because
here.
I was invited, and then all of a sudden, all these people followed me in, and then people didn't even know we're even in the state followed me, and I was like, "Oh man, is this my fault?"
Yeah.
What do you guys generally talk about in your podcast?
Nothing. Absolutely
All right,
not. We
just
don't
gibberish.
And
Yeah.
anything.
This podcast is literally just for us to.
The
This is
basis,
our escape.
The basis behind the podcast was we know each other because of reptiles. That's not necessarily what we talk about.
It's off topic.
Yeah.
We do have one segment. It's called diving deep in the shallow end. So you say something stupid, and you think about it. We've kind of been doing it all night, actually. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we even really need to go there.
No, we don't. I feel like
You
this
wanna
has
leave
been
it?
one big diving deep in the shallow end.
Okay, we'll just leave it then. I like that. I won't go there. But no, I don't know. What did you expect?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I was upstairs talking about metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about forbidden.
Good. Well, I'm
Omega
glad-
wave.
I'm glad that
Swine dragging the casket.
All right.
When
So
I saw this, I thought I got this because of you. I was like, Kevin will appreciate the
Metallica
Metallica whiskey,
That's
and that's why I got it.
well. I mean, we got to go. Justice for all. That's in prior to that. Yes.
what's
that's-
your take on the last couple of days? Worth it? Worth doing? Worth living through? You know, like
Fuck you.
oh, I mean,
I'm stealing that hat.
you know what you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know.
Worth living. Worth
Things better or worse? You know, like because of this weekend.
no.
It's a departure from the norm, at least.
Sure, I didn't have to do my normal shitload of work because
Well, they're just stacked up for you, right? That's the way it goes for me, anyway. But yeah, I don't know. What's your take?
friggin' dwarfy chicks are gay.